From Diversity Day to Dinner Party to Dwight's Christmas, and everything before, after, and in between. Welcome to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talkin' Office, the weekly podcast where three brave souls dissect, discuss, and debate each and every episode of The Office in order from pilot to finale. We sincerely hope you enjoy the experience.
This is not The Office theme.
It's a completely different song, I hope you can tell.
This is not The Office theme.
It's a completely different song, I hope that the lawyers can tell. 'Cause if not, we're fucked. Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
In the wild, healthcare is, ow, I hurt my leg. I can't run. A lion eats me, and I'm dead. Well, I'm not dead. I'm the lion. You're dead.
Why would you say that? You know I suffer from hot dog fingers.
And inverted penis.
With that, welcome to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talkin' Office. We are on Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Healthcare. First aired April 5th, 2005. Written by Toby Flenderson himself, Paul Lieberstein, and directed by Ken Whittingham. So, gist of the episode, fellas, is that Michael is given the task from Jan to pick out a new healthcare plan for the branch, and oh, does it go downhill from there.
Well, he wants them all to have the gold plan.
Yeah, and that's like the first glimpse, because again, I watched this literally for the first time 3:30 this afternoon. And like this is my first glimpse into understanding that Michael Scott in his own way cares. And I really like that they threw that in there. He's just like, give him the gold plan. Unfortunately, Jan's like, I don't even take the gold plan.
I'm going to contest you a little bit there, Paul, as far as him caring. I think he cares about down the road we'll see more and it will feel more genuine. Really right now is he cares about being popular. And, having to pick out a bad healthcare plan or, essentially a lesser healthcare plan, which is what he's supposed to do here, would be an unpopular move. So it really is having more to do with how he's perceived and his popularity than really caring about the health and well-being of the members of his branch.
That may be. Again, I'm 3 episodes in, but I was kind of like, I got the vibe a little bit. That I'm like, okay, Michael cares a little bit because he just give him what they want. Give him what they want.
Yeah, he doesn't really understand the cost of these things. So.
No, because Jan immediately is like, I don't take that one. You need to pick the cheapest plan and be done with that. And Michael immediately is like, this is going to suck.
Right. Go ahead, Joe.
And what's his plan, of course? He's going to delegate people's health care to one of the salesmen.
Right. Well, he first tries to recruit Jim for this task. Jim declines, and then for some reason decides to suggest Dwight.
Well, Jim suggests Dwight because that's what he always does when Michael wants to make him do something he doesn't want to do. Is he suggests Dwight right away.
Yeah, we find that
Dwight,
in the interview.
Right. I mean, Dwight, of course, enthusiastically accepts the challenge because, it's some sort of, I guess, power. As he sees it, I mean, he gets a temporary workspace out of the deal.
Yeah. Dwight's one of those guys. To be
clear, not in office.
Yeah, he's one of those guys you don't want to give any sort of authority to. Like, I've seen this guy in offices. He's a very real person.
He's a very real person.
And you do not want to give them any sort of responsibility.
Well, his first question is, how many people can I fire?
Yeah.
I'm going to need an office.
His line goes right there.
Then he tables it. He's not even like, I'll just table that for now. Michael's like, you can't fire anybody.
And then he has the argument with Michael about, is it an office? Is it a workspace? Is it a temporary workspace?
To nobody's surprise, Dwight slashes benefits, quote unquote, to the bone.
Oscar calls it what is like a pay decrease.
Yeah,
pay decrease.
And as all of this is happening, Michael hides away in his office,
because he's very busy that day. He is as call after call with what's her name? Pam, thank you. Oh, it's like, no, there's no call coming in.
Yeah. Well, I love how he, like, when he calls her up first, he's like, "Hey, Pam, house tricks." Like, what?
And what is he? What is the dated thing? Oh, is he like making copies? Oh my God, that's Rob Schneider, dude.
Like 94.
More humor.
So yeah, he does try to get out of that call with Pam, and he fakes not one but two incoming calls. Like, doesn't get the point the first time that she can clearly see that he's not getting a call.
It's I've had bosses who've pulled that trick. I'm too busy because they don't want to deal with.
Oh yes, I've just seen things where, like, very similar to this, where there's some bad news going on, and the office manager or the manager is like, you know what, I can't. My hands are tied today. I gotta go. You know, I got this going. They just totally ignore it, hoping that everything's calm the next day.
Or they'll call it a personal day and they'll take off like before they have to deliver bad news.
Yep. Or they take some time after they deliver the news. I'm going to be out of town for the next couple of days, so if you need something, contact this guy, fucker.
Pam and Jim confront Dwight about the shitty plan he picked, but Dwight could care less about a good healthcare plan because he has, as he puts it, superior genes because he's a shroot.
Yeah, he can raise and lower his cholesterol
at will, right? And why would he want to raise his cholesterol?
So he can lower it.
Brilliant. Can't argue with that logic. It's a little fun. It's a little funny though watching Jim come in, incredulous towards Dwight when he's the reason Dwight's in charge of this in the first place. Like, I get why Jim didn't want the responsibility, and of course it's Michael's responsibility. But knowing what Michael was shopping out, and knowing what Dwight would probably rest on, he shares some of the blame here. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah, his default of suggesting Dwight for things. This was one of the times he probably shouldn't, and maybe. If I was going to delegate this out, I would have probably gone to Oscar. Right. Somebody responsible. Yeah. So anyway, everybody is up in arms over Dwight's plan. So Michael sends Dwight back to the conference room or his temporary workspace to find a better plan. And then he announces a big surprise at the end of the day. Paul, I want to ask you, what was your thought? As you were watching it when Michael announced that he was going to have a big surprise by the end of the day, what did you expect?
I just said this isn't going to go well. Like, well, he's going to fuck that up. That's exactly what went through my mind. And I was just like, let's watch how badly he fucks this up. It was, that's immediately what my thought was.
Well, Paul, you know all about those free bus rides to Atlantic City where they comp everything and give you free chips for the casinos.
It's like something you must have seen on like a TV show or something. Because when he said that to the travel agent guy, I kind of I think I saw that somewhere that some casinos might offer some kind of package, to encourage a big group or something. But of course, his understanding, like it is with almost everything, is super simplified, that he doesn't understand that a travel agency isn't just going to send a busload of people for free to a casino with free chips and free food and free rooms and all of this stuff. I mean, come on, Michael.
The guy travel agent's like, maybe you should just call the casinos, and Michael just concedes. I already did.
Yes. That's where I just lost it. I'm like, oh my God, Michael. And then what's the other thing he's going to do? He's going to give him a mine ride.
Yeah, it's a 300-foot drop.
Yep.
Into the earth.
Do you got laser tag at the bottom when you get off of it?
So the voice that he talks to here, Joe, I want to fill you in on this. I'm not sure if you're aware, but he's actually talking to Creed on the phone right there. It's a fun little nugget of trivia. You don't really know Creed yet, Paul. You haven't had the pleasure. You've seen him. He's the older guy. Yes, but he hasn't had a speaking line yet. His part grows in time. But yeah, just Joe, I thought you might find that interesting if you weren't aware. But there's one talking head here that I do want to read verbatim, because I think this Michael talking head really sums up his worldview or how he sees things, and especially how he sees himself. All right. This is right after he announces the big surprise. And then we go to a talking head and he says, "Do I know what the surprise is? Hell no. It doesn't matter. The point is they're not unhappy anymore." Now keep in mind, he's talking about grown-ass adults here, not children. Right. All right. So then he continues, "They're out there thinking, wow, my boss really cares about me. He has a surprise. He's cool. What a great guy. I love him. I love him."
Oh, and his surprise is great, too.
The surprise is great. Oh, my God.
So Dwight is making everybody write down their diseases.
HR nightmare.
HR nightmare.
And they're like, you can't do that. And he's like, I can if it's anonymous. Just don't put your name on it.
But, of course, Jim and Pam have loads of fun with this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and, her thing is like the teeth melt and fall in the back of your throat.
Spontaneous dental hydroplosion or something like that.
Yep, that's what it is.
And Michael takes this time amid all this chaos to slink out of the office like a coward, like a total coward.
Yep, go find the surprise.
He comes back with some ice cream bars. In which Ryan, the intern's like, "Do you get the ones with the actual cookies?" And he just basically tells him to shut up.
Yeah. Shut up! Well, why don't you just eat it? We go to the conference room, and Dwight is reading off some of the submissions that he feels. Before
that, I gotta say, before that, Dwight comes out and says, because this is bad. I wrote this down. Someone forged medical information, and that's a felony. And Jim's like, whoa, okay, all right. That's a pretty intense accusation. How do you know they're fake? Leprosy, flesh-eating bacteria, hot dog fingers, government-created killer nano-infection. To which Pam says, it's an epidemic.
So Dwight decides he needs to interrogate everybody to get to the bottom of this shenanigans. And, of course, he naturally starts with Jim, who in turn locks him in his temporary workspace. and Dwight calls him on the phone.
Oh.
To which then Pam calls him.
Got another call coming in. Hold on a second. Dwight's just tapping on the glass like, Jim.
My favorite, though, is when Michael sees him locked in there and he just goes, oh, God, and he just walks into his office.
Yeah, and then so Dwight calls Jan and asks for permission to fire Jim.
Yes.
And that's when Michael's now in trouble.
Michael's in trouble.
Yeah, he gives away that Michael has delegated the responsibility of picking a healthcare plan to a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Which I find funny on that call to Jan, where she's like, "Who is this?" Like Dwight Schrute. She's like, "From sales."
Can I fire Jim? Because Michael put me in charge of picking the healthcare. Oh, really? And then she's like, "Don't ever call myself."
He's in charge of the office, and she's like, "Dwight, you're not in charge of anything."
Oh my God! All right, let's take our first break, shall we? And then we'll come back and we'll talk more healthcare here on Bears Beats Bobbleheads. Be back in a minute. Hello, hi, and Heidi Ho. If you're enjoying our Office podcast, please be sure to check out Cast That Movie, a podcast where Paul and I, using our superhero aliases, go back in time to revisit failed cinematic projects from the past. We discuss what went wrong, and then we each assign a new director and a new cast that we feel would have made the film a success. We also conjure up a dream project, a film we would like to see made based on a pop culture event. We also play games, talk about casting news, and just have an all-around good time. In our latest episode, we do our damnedest to re-envision 2017's epic flop, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. We then put together a dream cast for a Red Dead Redemption live-action film. For pop culture geeks and cinema nerds alike, don't forget to seek out Cast That Movie on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, or just visit us at our home at thejoedown.blog. All right, welcome back to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talkin' Office. We are talking Season 1, Episode 3, entitled Health Care. And when we last left, I guess, Dwight was locked in his office, Michael was still shirking responsibilities, and Jim and Pam were having a grand old time at Dwight's expense. But Dwight does eventually get out, it seems, because we then cut to the conference room where Dwight has decided he's going to read everybody's medical conditions aloud. And they must be claimed or they will not be covered.
What about confidentiality, says Stanley.
You've forfeited that privilege. But we do find out that Meredith had a hysterectomy by way of Dwight confusing a uterus and a vagina.
It starts off with an inverted penis.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Meredith, could you mean vagina? Because if you do, I want that covered. To which Dwight says, I thought your vagina was removed during your hysterectomy.
God.
Holy
and then
shit.
Meredith very calmly explains it was her uterus that was removed, that she still has a vagina. And so Dwight learns a little bit of human anatomy there on the fly. And then he also learns about anal fissures, thanks to Kevin, who is forced to have to admit in front of the entire office that he suffers from anal fissures. Thanks, Dwight.
Thanks, Dwight.
Somebody in the office has it.
Oh man, you can just feel like just the whole room just like, oh, just they feel so bad for him having to admit that. And even Dwight, when Kevin says that, like he kind of like, oh.
Yep. Oh yeah, that was very apparent. Very apparent.
Michael doesn't show his face up until the very end, at which point he asks how things went after having dodged everybody all day long. And it should not have come to a surprise that everybody hates Dwight's healthcare plan. It's absolute crap. And of course he blames Dwight because that's what Michael does. Shirks responsibility. And then he makes it very clear that he has absolutely nothing for this special surprise that he was using to basically get himself to the end of the day. That scene where he's trying to think of something and everybody just one by one gives up on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he just stands there just frozen.
Yeah.
And well,
Stanley points out, he's like, what do you guys think my surprise is? And Stanley's like, we think you don't have a surprise.
And
Stanley the Manly.
And the thing is that while that's going on, they're cutting I mean, you could tell the documentary crew is just don't like Michael, because while this is happening, it's kind of him going, I love improv. I'd love to go against Robin Williams.
Well, even funnier to me is like that he learned from the best, from the greats, Drew Carey and Ryan Stiles. Who, for those listeners that are not aware, are from Whose Line Is It Anyway, which was a popular improv network TV program in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I would personally contest that maybe there are a few more tried and true. I mean, I know Ryan Stiles is definitely a bona fide in the in the improv world, but Drew Carey is the host, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Drew Carey does not improvise on that show.
No, he just laughs at all the other improv, and then he does like they did the sing-along thing at the end. I think that was the only thing he really ever participated in.
Yeah, that would be correct.
So yeah, just that juxtaposition of him talking about his great improv skills, and then he's put on the spot to do some improv and improv his way out of it, and just freezes and just looks ahead and is clearly, sweating. It's just...
It was cringy. It was cringy.
And The Office is good at that, right?
Mm-hmm. So far, so good.
All right, well...
He does not work well under pressure.
No. He likes to keep it light and breezy, lemon squeezy. There's no doubt about that. So, okay, well, that pretty much covers what happens in this episode, Health Care. We're going to take one more break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to give our reactions to the episode, in addition to who we each felt won the episode or who had the best showing. And then Paul is going to kind of give us his evolving feedback of the show, having been the first time he's seen the episode. So we'll be back in a minute.
Hi, this is Paul Muad'Dib, one half of Podcast Above a Convenience Store, Talkin Twin Peaks, which I work on with Joseph Fremming, who's also on the podcast that you're listening to right now. We go through all of Twin Peaks, Season 1, Season 2, the movie, the books. Right now we're digging into Season 3, which will end the podcast with the final dossier, which was the last book that was put out by Mark Frost, putting a cap on everything that's happened in the Twin Peaks universe. So please, check us out. You can find us on the joedown.blog with everything else on here. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify. There's no reason why you don't want to listen.
All right, welcome back to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talkin' Office. And we are wrapping up our discussion here of Season 1, Episode 3, Health Care. Joe, as always, why don't you lead us off here and give your impressions, your takeaways, and who you feel had the best showing in this episode.
This was a fun episode. It really kind of hit home with, working in an office and delegation going to the wrong people at times. I loved it, and I think this was who won this one for me. This was Dwight, hands down. This was where we kind of he's breaking away from more of the Gareth from the British, and now he's becoming his own insane, weird backwoods guy, survivalist. We find out.
You can say hick. You can say hick.
Yeah, he's a hick. He's a hillbilly.
Yep.
Yes, that is very true. And he's got, I know Gareth, had the territorial army thing he was a part of, but Dwight is far more authoritarian, I think, than Gareth ever was, at least more aggressively. So I'm going to start my recap here by saying I agree that Dwight had the best showing because his character had the best scenes, and also we learned a lot more about him than we had in the previous two. This episode doesn't make me laugh out loud near as much as the second episode did, as much as Diversity Day did. But nonetheless, yeah, it's a really good episode. It's a great premise. It's that office minutia everybody can relate to, a healthcare plan and wanting it not to be a crappy one and having to fight to get it. And then, yeah, Michael just hiding away and not stepping up to the plate, I think is kind of, what we've come to expect from him at this point. Paul, what about you? What were your takeaways?
I actually think it was a tie between Dwight and Jim, because I appreciated Dwight. We learned a little more about him, but also, I appreciate the acting in these things. You know how I am with art and things like that with the acting. And there was times where I was like, I don't care how many times you throw that stuff out there. I don't know how you get away with saying it with a straight face like Dwight does. It's just genius. But there's this exchange, people who are really suffering from medical conditions that won't receive care they need in this office, coming up with just ridiculous stuff Count Choculatus. And Jim goes, sounds tough. Jesus Christ, you two. And then Dwight gets really angry. Why did you write that down, Jim? It's because you know I love Count Chocula. Like, just the banner between those two is what made me really like this episode.
Yeah, I mean, despite his authoritarian streak, it's funny going back to the whole juxtaposition idea that Dwight is kind of a kid at heart with a lot of things, and like that is he loves Count Chocula is just a funny little nugget to throw in there.
Right. Like this guy, Dwight, you like Count Chocula? So yeah, I think it really was like when those two were doing their thing together, like when they're locking in the office and how they're all behaving between those two, I was just like, these guys are great.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There's definitely a chemistry between the cast. So another thing I want to do with you here, Paul, is now that we're 3 episodes in, I want to kind of track 2 things with you. I want to track who is your current favorite character, understanding that could change, as the characters evolve. Mm-hmm. And I want to track what is thus far your favorite episode. I'm going to guess the pilot is probably not in the running.
Yeah.
But that's why I didn't start this last week, because it was, I think, self-evident. So what would you say to those 2 categories? Your favorite character so far and your favorite episode so far?
Oh, boy. I would say my favorite character so far is Jim.
Okay.
I absolutely I can relate very well to Jim. Because he's kind of the way that the attitude I take in the office, which is what the fuck is going on with this place, and just antagonizing people that are horrible, and guilty as charged. And my favorite episode, God, this was really close. But I have to go with, I agree with you, Diversity Day. But there were things because of working in an office, like the manager that won't come out, like stupid shit getting delegated, like dealing with getting your fucking health insurance cut or getting shitty health care. I've been through all those. So, yeah, it's tough. They're really, really close, but I have to go with Diversity Day.
And you're not finding that I know you had said one of your hesitations to coming to watch The Office was it hitting too close to home, you being through it. So is that working, you think, at this point, for it or against it? You being able to relate to all these experiences and maybe having some bad memories of some of these experiences.
Well, like I said, it's going to be cringy. And I think that when I saw Michael do that, I've seen managers have nothing to say. So it's it puts some extra weight in it to me. Like, oh my God, that is really fucking cringy. So, so far it's, I think, working in its favor.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So I just want to, before we go here, I want to say this is so fun for me. Listeners out there, Paul and I have been best friends for about 20 years now, maybe more.
Yeah, getting on the 21.
And I have been trying to get him to watch this show for many years now, pretty much ever since I started becoming obsessed with it. And yeah, it took starting a podcast about it to get it to happen. But I'm really happy so far that you are enjoying the experience, because this would be a very awkward podcast if you were hating the show.
If I was hating it?
Probably not a very good podcast, because people will probably be tuning in being like, dude, shitting on The Office is my favorite show. I'm not listening to this anymore.
I could play a frumpy pants character if that's going to help the podcast.
So yeah, that's just a personal thing I want to throw out there is imagine being able to watch your favorite show. I mean, not literally watch your favorite show, but more or less watch and discuss your favorite show with your best friend. And I get the pleasure of doing that here. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're going to call it a show at that. We are going to be back next week, and we will be watching season 1, episode 4, entitled The Alliance. So until then, he's Joe, he's Paul, I'm Scott, and we will be back next week with more Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talkin' Office. For more podcasts like this one and general pop culture tomfoolery, be sure to visit thejoedown.blog. That's thejoedown.blog.